What would you sacrifice for unimaginable wealth? When Adanna faces the ultimate choice, the price may be too high and the consequences too deadly. Adanna had always dreamed of escaping poverty. The weight of her family's struggles rested squarely on her shoulders, and every night she prayed for a miracle. But in this city where wealth was flaunted like a badge of honor, miracles rarely came without a price. She was surrounded by riches, yet trapped in a cycle of poverty. What Adana didn't know was that the miracle she prayed for would come, but it would demand a sacrifice that could shatter her soul. Adana's life was a daily grind. By day, she worked at a local shop, earning just enough to keep her family fed. By night, she lay awake, haunted by dreams of a better life. She wasn't greedy, she just wanted enough to break free from the chains of poverty. One day, Adana met Ezekiel during a smooth talking acquaintance at a roadside cafe. Ezekiel had always been a charmer, the kind of man who could sell sand in the desert, but beneath his smile was a dangerous ambition. As the two became more acquainted, Ezekiel presented a dangerous and sinister deal. He smirks at Adanna. Adanna, I've got an opportunity for you. It's not easy, but the rewards are, let's just say, life changing. Adanna frowns and unsure. She was no fool. She had heard stories of young women lured into schemes that left them broken. But when Ezekiel spoke of wealth, cars, houses, and luxury, her resolve wavered. Adana hesitated, but asked, "What do I have to do?" Ezekiel leaning closer. "Meet Obiora. He'll explain everything." Anana agreed, and Ezekiel arranged the meeting with Obiora. Obiora was a man of power. His wealth was whispered about in hushed tones, and his methods were shrouded in mystery. Adanna was ushered into a dimly lit room. Obiora, an imposing man, sits behind a desk. His voice is deep and commanding. "If you want wealth, Adanna, you must prove your courage. Sleep with the python, and riches will be yours. Refuse, and your family will suffer." Adanna's eyes widen in shock. Her hands tremble. Her heart pounded. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Sleep with a python? The very thought was terrifying, but the alternative, watching her family suffer, was unbearable. She couldn't make a decision on the spot. Adanna left Obiora office haunted by her thoughts. As she walks through the city, she overhears conversations around her. A market woman explained, "Have you heard about Chukuma? He just bought a mansion. They say he's blessed." A man in suit reply, "Blessed! Ha! These boys are doing things." Nobody wants to work anymore. They just want fast money. Everywhere Adana turned, the message was the same. Wealth was the ultimate measure of success. And in a city where the poor were invisible, her desperation grew. One evening, Adana confides in Mama Ijoma, an elderly woman known for her wisdom. Mama Ijoma advised Adana of such wealth. "My child, wealth that comes from darkness will only bring sorrow. Think carefully before you take this path." But Adana was torn. Her family's needs weighed heavily on her, and the promise of wealth was a beacon she couldn't ignore. In a city where desperation and ambition collide, Adana's choice will change everything. But what price will she pay for the wealth she desires? And will she find redemption or ruin? Adana couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with thoughts of the python, the ritual, and the promises of wealth. The images haunted her, her siblings going to bed hungry, her mother's frail body after years of struggling, and the neighbors who mocked her family's poverty. A flashback during her younger age when she walks barefoot to school while children in shiny shoes laugh at her. She had endured a life of humiliation, always at the mercy of others' pity, and now, for the first time, someone was offering her a way out. But at what cost? The next day, Ezekiel visits Adanna, lounging on her couch with an air of confidence. He sips from a bottle of soda, his gold wristwatch gleaming in the sunlight. Adanna, why are you hesitating? Do you want to keep living like this, scraping for pennies? You're better than this. I don't know if I can do it, Ezekiel. It feels wrong. Answer, Adanna. Ezekiel leaned forward. Wrong. You think the people driving big cars and living in mansions worry about what's wrong. No one cares about the rules, Adanna. They only care about winning. His words struck a chord. Adanna felt the weight of his gaze, his confidence seeping into her thoughts like poison. That evening, Ezekiel invites Adanna to an upscale restaurant in the heart of the city. She sits awkwardly in her simple dress as women in designer clothes laugh and sip cocktails around her. Ezekiel orders a lavish meal. See this? This could be your life, Adanna. No more cheap food, no more begging, just power and respect. Adanna looks around, her eyes lingering on the waiters scurrying to serve the rich patrons. Adanna was overwhelmed. The glittering chandeliers, the soft jazz music, the clink of wine glasses. It was a world she had only seen in her dreams, and for a moment she allowed herself to imagine what it would feel like to belong here. That night, Adanna visits Mama Ijoma again. The old woman sits on her veranda, shelling groundnuts. She looks up as Adanna approaches. You're troubled, child. Speak. Mama, I can't stop thinking about it. What if this is my only chance to change my life? Said Adanna. Mama Ijoma closed her eyes. Sit down, Adanna. Let me tell you a story. Mama Ijoma's voice was steady as she recounted the tale of a man who had traded his soul for riches, only to lose everything he held dear. As she spoke, Adanna felt a chill run down her spine. Riches born of darkness bring sorrow that no amount of gold can erase. Remember that, Adanna. Mama Ijoma said sternly. Adanna, still in the state of dilemma, finds herself in Obiora's office again. This time she's dressed neatly, her face set in determination. So, have you made your decision? Asked Obiora. Adanna swallows hard, her hands trembling at her sides. She looks him in the eye. I I need more time, she answered. Obiora's expression remained unreadable, but his voice was cold. Time is a luxury you don't have, Adanna. Choose now, wealth or ruin. At this point, Adanna remembered overhearing Ezekiel talking on the phone in an alleyway. His voice is low but urgent. Yes, she's almost ready. Don't worry, Obiora will get what he wants, and I'll get my cut. And so Adanna gasps and steps back into the shadows. In that moment, the truth hit her like a thunderbolt. Ezekiel wasn't helping her, he was using her, and if she went through with the ritual, she'd be nothing more than a pawn in their game. Adanna rushed out of Obiora's office and ran to Mama Ijoma's house, her heart pounding. Mama, I need your help. They're trying to trap me. I knew this day would come, but to fight darkness, you must be strong. Are you ready, child? Mama Ijoma asked. Adanna nods, her fear replaced by a spark of determination. Adanna had made her choice. She wouldn't let greed destroy her, but the battle ahead would test her in ways she couldn't imagine. After Adanna and Mama Ijoma meeting, Adanna returns to Obiora's lair, this time with Mama Ijoma by her side. The room is tense, the air thick with unease. Ah, you've brought a guest. How quaint, asked Obiora. Obiora, your games end here. You will not take this girl's soul. Answer Mama Ijoma. Obiora's smirk fades, replaced by a dark, menacing glare. The room crackled with unseen energy as two forces, one of light, the other of darkness, prepared to collide. Adanna stood between them, her fate hanging in the balance. The tension in the air was thick, heavy, and electric. Obiora, the master manipulator, was not used to being challenged, least of all by an old woman and a desperate girl. But Mama Ijoma was no ordinary woman, and Adanna was no longer an easy victim. You think you can stop me, old woman? You don't know what you're dealing with, Obiora said coldly. Mama Ijoma replies calmly, Obiora, your power thrives on fear and greed, but it will falter in the face of truths and courage. She opens the book, murmuring words in a language Adanna doesn't understand. Obiora flinches, his composure cracking. Adanna watched, her heart pounding, as the room seemed to shift. The candles flickered wildly and shadows danced along the walls. For the first time, she saw a flicker of fear in Obiora's eyes. The facade of Obiora's humanity slipped, revealing the true monster lurking beneath. Adanna gasped, her knees threatening to buckle. This was no ordinary man. He was something far more dangerous. At that moment, Obiora snarls, You dare defy me? Do you know how many lives I've claimed? How many souls I've consumed? Mama Ijoma replies steadily, And how many more will rise against you? Your time is running out, Obiora. Adanna gathers her courage, stepping forward despite her fear. You've taken enough from people like me. I won't let you take anything else, shouted Adanna. Obiora lets out a roar, the room shaking as objects fly off shelves. Adanna grabs Mama Ijoma's hand and they make a run for the door. Obiora's voice echoes behind them. You can't run from me. You've made your choice, Adanna, and there's no turning back. Adanna and Mama Ijoma burst into the night, the cool air stinging their faces. But the danger was far from over. Obiora's reach extended far beyond his lair. The two women find themselves at the door of Chinedu, a local journalist known for exposing corruption. He opens the door, his face skeptical. Adanna, Mama Ijoma, what's going on? Asked Chinedu. Mama Ijoma answered, We need your help. Obiora is more powerful than we thought, and his network is dangerous. Chinedu nodded. I've heard whispers about him, rituals, disappearances, but going against him is suicide. If we don't stop him, more lives will be ruined. Please, Chinedu, you're the only one who can expose the truth. Adanna pleaded. Chinedu hesitated, his journalist instincts battling with his fear, but one look at Adanna's pleading eyes was enough to tip the scales. Chinedu digs into Obiora's past, uncovering a web of corruption, greed, and dark rituals. He finds photos, documents, and names of influential figures connected to Obiora's operations. The truth was more horrifying than any of them had imagined. Obiora wasn't working alone. He had ties to politicians, business tycoons, and even law enforcement. His network spanned the entire city, feeding on the desperation of the poor and the greed of the rich. As they plan their next move, strange things begin to happen. Chinedu's office is ransacked, Mama Ijoma's home is set on fire, and Adanna begins receiving threatening messages. Obiora was not one to take defiance lightly. His power was vast and his reach seemed endless. But for the first time, he was facing resistance, and that made him dangerous. Adanna also receives a phone call late at night. A distorted voice speaks. Turn back, Adanna. You don't know what you're dealing with. She hangs up, her face set with determination. I'm not afraid of you anymore, she said to herself. As they gather more evidence, Chinedu arranges a secret meeting with other victims of Obiora's schemes. The room is filled with men and women from all walks of life, each with a story of loss and betrayal. After reviewing all the documents, Chinedu speaks to the victims. If we work together, we can bring him down, but it won't be easy. Are you with me? The group hesitates, then nods one by one. Adanna stands, her voice steady. I've seen what he can do, but I've also seen what courage can achieve. If we stand together, we can stop him, said Adanna. The group begins their plan, exposing Obiora's secrets through leaked documents, viral videos, and public protests. Obiora, furious, tightens his grip on his remaining allies. The battle was no longer just Adanna's, it was a fight for the soul of the city. And as Obiora's empire began to crumble, his desperation grew. Meanwhile, Obiora sits in his lair, vows to destroy Adanna and her newfound allies. And so, the resistance against Obiora's network grows stronger. Leaked videos of his rituals and evidence of his corruption spread across social media. Protests erupt in the city with people demanding justice. Obiora's allies begin to abandon him, fearing exposure. The tide was turning. What once seemed like an unstoppable force was now crumbling under the weight of truths and courage. Adanna and her allies had lit a fire that could no longer be extinguished. That evening, Adanna, Mama Ijoma, and Chinedu watched the news from a safe house. The headlines show images of protests and police investigations into Obiora's activities. We're finally making a difference, said Adanna as she smiles. The truth is a powerful weapon, my child, and you've shown the world that even the smallest voice can bring down giants, said Mama Ijoma. Obiora, now desperate and cornered, makes one last attempt to retaliate. He lures Adanna to an abandoned warehouse, threatening her allies if she doesn't come alone. Obiora's desperation had made him reckless, but Adanna was ready. With Mama Ijoma's blessings and Chinedu's careful planning, she wasn't walking into the trap unprepared. The warehouse is dimly lit. Adanna enters, her step steady. Obiora emerges from the shadows, his face twisted with rage. You think you've won? I made you an offer and you spat in my face. No, Obiora, you made me a prisoner, but I chose freedom, Adanna said calmly. Obiora saw the opportunity to shut up Adanna once and for all, but before Obiora can act, the police stormed the building, having been tipped off by Chinedu. Obiora is arrested, shouting threats as he is dragged away. The nightmare was over. Obiora's reign of terror had ended, not with the cries of the desperate, but with the strength of the courageous. Adanna stands on her balcony, watching the sunrise. Mama Ijoma joins her, a warm smile on her face. "Do you think we've really made a difference, Mama?" asked Adanna. "You've done more than that, Adanna. You've given people hope, and hope is the seed from which change grows." Answer: Mama Ijoma. Adanna's bravery had not only freed her from her own struggles, but had sparked a movement that would transform the lives of many. She had learned that true wealth was not in gold or possessions, but in the impact one life could have on others. Adanna began to teach and speak to a group of young women in a community center, sharing her story. "I've learned that shortcuts to wealth often lead to destruction. True success comes from perseverance, integrity, and believing in yourself, even when the world seems against you." Adanna's story became a beacon of light for others, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the courage to stand up for what's right can change everything. It teaches us that greed and shortcuts to wealth often lead to destruction, but courage, perseverance, and integrity can overcome even the darkest challenges. True wealth lies not in possessions, but in the lives we touch and the hope we inspire in others. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Adanna's story reminds us that greed and fear can only thrive when good people stay silent. By choosing courage over despair, she proved that even the smallest acts of defiance can bring about the greatest change. We hope you enjoyed this heartwarming and suspenseful story. If you found it inspiring, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales like this one. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next story.